Yeah.
Take a breath. All right. Okay, call to order the Board of Education meeting, regular meeting of November 6, 2019. As always, first up, the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item number 2, and what a delight. We have a special recognition for our Eagle Scouts. And Laura, do you want to?
Yes, I want to invite Guy Cerrone and Alec Masick up here for a hug and a congratulations and a thank you.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if you just take a moment to describe your projects that you finished so completely and in such a wonderful way.
Cell phones out, everybody? Wait for the cell phones.
I'm so very proud of them. It's amazing work.
Yeah. You want me to just go ahead?
Yeah.
Please do. There.
Basically, I remember going up to the school forest as a kid and basically sitting on that little hill. People's lunches were just flying everywhere, water spilling, everything going on. So I thought to myself when I had to do my project, what would be most beneficial to the school. So I checked with Laura and Principal Levine, and basically concluded that a bench would be really helpful to these kids. So the teacher would be able to teach these kids, and these kids would be literally looking up. No, is it south? I'm pretty sure, is it south or north? No, it's not west. Northwest. While the teacher was teaching, I don't know if it's going to be a little distracting. Maybe look at some boats, but hopefully it'll be pretty productive. And that's basically it. It's 12 feet long, and then 6 foot little pegs, whatever. Yep. And so these kids have basically a bunch of room to sit, and it'll be pretty fun. I hope. Hopefully they can use it.
Thank you.
I'm Alec Masick. My Eagle Scout project, very, very close to Guy's in proximity. I restored a cabin about a quarter of a mile away from Guy's project, down just east of the South Redoubt, and I spent the whole summer, almost every Sunday, going up there with a crew to restore this once just decrepit, abandoned cabin that was built in the 1950s, and we installed new windows, new doors, redid the whole foundation. We put metal roofing on, and now hopefully, in my eyes, I hope that this could be phase 1, and maybe in another couple of years, another scout can come along and maybe do the interior. And eventually, my hope is that when time comes, it can become a complete an actual outdoor classroom, an actual room, where if for school forest days, where kids can go out and just kind of just embrace the nature around them, and yeah. Thank you. That's great.
Thank you. It was a wonderful process. They both contacted us. They had a plan.
Thank you all for allowing us to do this. Thank you, Laura, and the whole school board. You guys were very helpful in both of our projects. I just want to thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to give back.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
We'd like to talk to you later about building a condo.
No. And Alec, I have only 2 things to say. I wrote it down. Tubadita, Aita.
Aita. Oh, yes, Aita.
Aita. Thank you. Did I close? Tubadita.
Almost, Mr.
Aita. Aita.
Thank you.
In Estonian, it's good work. Thank you. So,
We need the Prime Minister this weekend, too.
oh. Yeah. Excellent. Terrific. Okay, so 2 of our graduates here are doing good work. bring back to the community. It's very rewarding to see. Anytime that, what gets produced gets cycled back in the form of enhancing the surroundings and the educational experience for those that are here and those who will be coming. It's such a beneficial kind of feedback for us all, and a good reminder. So you're making us better, and we appreciate that. President's announcements. I only have a couple, and I think mainly that Laura will be talking a little bit about perhaps committees and where that stands at some point. But I also wanted to remind the new board members, Jocelyn and Matt, to make sure you stay on top of training. Don't let that slip away. I don't know where that stands, and maybe be in touch with Beth about possibilities. Okay. Just want to make sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just remind you of those particular obligations. And I think that's about it for now. Okay, Laura?
Yep.
you wanna take
I
it?
want to say thank you again to Guy and Alec for your good work. It was such a pleasure working with you and supporting you in your give back to the community, as well as your parents. We've known each other for a number of years, and I've seen you, grow into young men in high school and be successful. And I just can't wait until you go beyond, and I read about all the good things you're doing to make us better locally and globally. So thank you. You'll see on the agenda that Matthew Evans is resigning, and he's moving on to another school, which is a next step for him. It's a good step for him professionally and personally. I just wanted to say thank you to him. He has brought a good energy to our school. He has brought PBIS to our school. He's student government, and the support that he gives our students on a daily basis is just stellar and a model for all of us. So I want to thank him publicly for his good service, and he will be missed, but we're excited about his next journey.
And just to be clear, it's he's taking a position that's a little bit more enhanced than his current.
Correct, teacher assistant. And just about the study groups, there was a little concern regarding the coherence plan and where the board was going on sort of the future, and there was a wondering of whether the district priorities would be in conflict with the coherence plan. But in our conversation, it was clarified that the district priorities are still in line with the future coherence plan. It will be embedded. It will be part of the work. So we should continue in developing our study teams and the committee work and defining them as a school and as a district. So that will be our next step, is to start meeting with teachers and defining what a study team is, what it looks, sounds, and feels like. And then we'll share that with the community and parents. And then we'll see which committees we will be preserving. There may be still a committee for environmental education, but we're going to divvy out some of the work that may be embedded in other curriculum areas or other areas of the school. An athletics committee will probably remain an athletics committee, but other things will change. So this will take time because we are changing a mindset and a structure, and this is the district priorities right now are a 3-year plan. So we want to make sure that we take the time to think about how to roll this out. So we're going to look for a little more time. Hopefully we'll have some ideas in the next few weeks. I will explain principal office assistant, or we will when we get there. Okay. And then lastly, as you all know, I will be leaving the district. My last day here will be December 31st. I just want to say thank you very much for having me here. It's been a pleasure knowing all of you and working with you. I'm very proud of all of the accomplishments we made in the last 5.5 years. And I'm still around. I'm still around. I will see you. Our paths will cross. So I'm still here if you need me now and beyond. But it's been a real pleasure.
Say a few remarks, but we have many weeks ahead of us, and there'll be plenty of opportunities to thank Laura. And I hope that all members of the community come and thank Laura for her contributions and her admirable service to the district, and any type of words of encouragement for her to go pursue her dissertation, which is needs to definitely be done. I've sort of served as, you know, a constant mirror to Laura, like, the only good dissertation is a finished and completed one. All others are, you know, don't get read, they're irrelevant, they sit. So, and also the future of her professional accomplishments are going to be truly impressive, I'm sure. Principal's remarks?
Good evening, everyone. Just an effort of highlighting this. We've had a lot of excitement and wonderful events first. Congratulations, gentlemen. Appreciate your efforts. Wonderful contributions to our school. So we've had some things in an effort, of course, to make sure that we are, as always, focusing on our staff as well as, of course, our kids. There were a number of wonderful things. Halloween, of course, there were some wonderful opportunities to dress up. As we'll see here. Yep. Oh, man. It's right there. Some good costumes out there by our staff. Nice photo there for them, too. Well, we did have another thing that we had. Jared Campbell was a wonderful thank you to GSIF, who was kind enough to support through one of their many grant opportunities. Jared Campbell was kind enough. He lost his voice. We were grateful that he rescheduled with us for this past Monday for grades 3 through 8. It was absolutely phenomenal, wonderfully received by our staff and our students. We did find out as well he does have K2 programming as well. So we appreciate the work of CDA Go was instrumental in putting that forth, and we appreciate her good work.
Alex, can you tell us a little bit about this guest and what he was doing?
Sure. So we originally had scheduled him for Unity Day, which you spoke about at the last board meeting, for encouraging empathy and kindness and during Anti-Bullying Month. So he was due to come during that day, and a lot of his songs really, they can focus on those themes, but he did also incorporate some themes about just grit and resilience, had some really wonderfully impactful stories that of just in his travels of people he had met through his various experiences, and incorporated into a wonderful songwriter and talented musician as well. So very interactive, and he was very skilled in making sure it was developmentally appropriate and really engaging for his two very different audiences of 3, 5, and 6, 8. And I had first and foremost, let's see if I'm going the wrong way. We had on Halloween as well, there was a writer's cafe, which this entire place was completely filled with parents for grades 3 through 5. So writing was on display. You'll see as well there were a number of our parents who came in and were just quiet, and as well as the students too, just responding and just reading through the work that was put there. So really a testament to the hard work that our grade 3, 4, 5 teachers do, along with our students. Of course, it was a wonderful way to celebrate their work on what can be a busy day. It was busier, but it was a nice busy in the space too. Then finally, we had, if the sound will go, we had our very first pep band performance. Don't wait pep band. 4, 5, 6. So we'll see future. And we did also have a couple of our 7th graders. So it was wonderful to see all of the spirit that we have from all of our students. It was a wonderful day. Thank you to Mr. Beckley, who is, as always, just wonderful in coordinating that to celebrate all of our athletics throughout the year. And that's about it.
Questions for Alex? No matters. I have a question regarding athletics, actually, specifically the state of football. Do we have modified participation, or do some Garrison students participate
Yes.
in modified football?
Mr. Twardy does his darndest to get them to and from Haldane for those practices and those games. Yes.
I think that is there a new law that's being passed, I believe, around football? In New York State?
Concussions? Yeah.
And tackle football as well. Am I right about this?
Yep, concussion training.
So we should all be aware of the state of football, as well as any changes in law that might apply with concussion, as well as what limitations they have. Does anyone know the new law regarding football or new regs?
I think it's 12 and under. There's no tackle football anymore.
Is that a thank you? Is that a law now, a decree, or
I can look it up. I know it's a proposed New York
I thought
City
they were
law.
considering
I'm not sure
it.
if it
Okay.
passed yet.
all right? I just want to be on top of that. So, there's a lot of struggling trying to make teams happen in small districts, and with the decreasing birth rate, we should be mindful of those sports that are impacted by that, and how we could maybe think about this in the future, about how we're going to collaborate effectively, given either compressed birth rates in the Northeast area, and whatever shared services we need to do to maybe keep the teams going in the best way that they thrive within the context that they're operating in.
Looks like the law that's been passed is just about information being mandated to give to parents when there's been a concussion. The laws that are under proposal are about banning it.
Yeah. So there's so anyway, but there are two pressures here. One is concern for concussions in state regs. The other concern is number of students participating. And you need a certain number of players to create a football team. And so we should be mindful of that perhaps in the future. We might end up going into multi-district agreements perhaps to even make a football team happen at some point, if it's plausible. Okay. The other possibility is that they go 8 on 8, which is what some upstate districts do that are small. It's a modified, it's a altered game, augmented game, but similar. So anyway, something to attend to. That's all. All right. Item number 6. Thank you, Alex.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, there we go. We all good? Good. So,
you've been abandoned.
you're in the front row now. So, I need a motion to approve the creation of the part-time position of principal office assistant.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All right, be it resolved that the Board of Education, before we do that, is there any questions for Laura? Laura, could you possibly just frame for us maybe the rationale for this position and how this came about? This position has been long sought after. It's been being advertised for a number of months, and it was something that was discussed, I think, maybe perhaps in April or May of last year. And so some of the new board members may not be aware of the rationale behind it and what is hoped to achieve.
Yeah, it was a board discussion and a staff discussion around the needs in the school, and where there was some workload pressure. And a lot of the workload pressure is in the main office. So the idea was to create a part-time position that could help alleviate that pressure in the main office. So Courtney, you sent some good questions, so I thought maybe I would just share those. So what are the responsibilities that this person will be responsible for? In addition to all the things that are happening in the main office already, is telephones, personal interactions with staff, community, faculty, deliveries, signing people in. It would include staff coverages, which has been an ongoing struggle, scheduling principal appointments and observations to provide the principal with some support, data reporting and entry, and many shared responsibilities with Catherine, who's already in the office, such as student registration, establishing residency, maintaining school calendar, bus routes. Right now, what's going on in the main office is larger than what one person can do. It's not sustainable. So the idea, with the board's blessing, and actually idea, was to add somebody into the main office. So right now it's a part-time position. It's a civil service position. It's 17.5 hours, 3.5 hours per day.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
When you say staff coverages, would this person be covering for teachers or just for other office staff?
No, what it is when we say coverage is good question, is that when there's a staff member who's absent, that person needs to be covered. So during the day, figuring out how to cover those classes or those programs that need to be covered. So if
So they could be in the classroom.
they will be in the
No,
classroom.
they
They're
They
assigning.
arrange for the coverage.
They like put you in
Oh, got it.
They're working with
Thank you.
substitutes and during the school day.
Got it.
Chris Caliendo is our sub-caller that
Thank
he
you.
works, that flanks the school day. But within the day, there are things that need to happen schedule-wise and assignment-wise.
Okay.
And I know there's been a lot of talk about other needs, personnel needs, and I noted on the bottom that it's always that tricky place where you want to support instruction, and what does that mean personnel-wise? But there's also a lot of pressure on the administrative staff and offices too for personnel. So moving forward, I think it would be good for the administrative team and the staff to work together and see what are our needs, because all of us could say we need more people, and all of us could say we need more people and help where we are in our positions. So you could ask the business office and they'd say absolutely. You could ask that and say absolutely. You could ask teachers and say absolutely. You can ask Alex absolutely, and I would say absolutely as well. So it's trying to figure out sort of who these folks are, and it will impact the budget. But people's plates are full, and there's support that's needed by all. So trying to figure out what the priorities are, and making sure that the district and the school run smoothly.
This is just a 12-month position, so we had the option to renew it at that point.
And you can grow as needed if you wanted to.
I think one thing to remember is that, we're a small district, but with mandates and certain expectations and certain tasks, it's just, you need a certain number of resources to make things happen, that's it. And there's not enough resources often, and we're grateful when people can double up and do different things, but there's a point where you need to allocate those resources necessary in order for individual performers within the district to do their jobs well. If we have in the same instance, if we have a overcrowded classroom or needs within the classroom, and we're able to allocate the resources necessary based upon the superintendent's recommendation, we have to do that. We have to support that, and we should be eager to support our staff as well as be mindful to the economic impact upon the district. But they're not mutually exclusive endeavors. That's what smart budgeting and forward thinking and good planning is about, is allocating resources toward an end that is well thought out. And that's what I hope we are able to do in the process of the coming years. So,
I would just add too that the beauty of this, starting with this position is that while of course it will be a help within the main office itself, as we've discussed as a team as we've developed this position, is that of course it will be of help to the entire school. So in terms of, to your point of just finding more strategic ways of better supporting the entire school, I think this is a great step, and I appreciate the board's foresight in seeing that about a year ago and allowing us to move forward with this. So thank you.
yeah, functionality has a ripple effect. That's all there is to it. You make one office more functional, it can help all the others. Yeah, question?
So I just have a question. Are some of the things that this new position that they'll be responsible for, maybe is written into the job description, are those things written into various other people's job descriptions that now they won't have to do? Or are these kinds of new tasks that have started to crop up and become more cumbersome that really requires the additional person? I don't know if that's clear.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think there's a few things, given the time, a lot of the responsibilities that have fallen on the full-time individual at the main office, that's going to remain as is, just because the nature of this position is for part of the day. So there really won't be significant shifts in that regard. So we tried to look at what would be fitting in terms of making it easier for families, community members, staff to schedule appointments. So of course having more people to have that access. The observation process is one that requires for one individual a pre-observation conference, the observation itself, as well as a post-observation. So those things are very time-consuming and will be of help in that process. So along with some other things too. But again, it won't affect, in our estimation, the other responsibilities. Like we won't be taking, as you were saying, or shifting from one desk to the other, so to speak.
Who's doing the observations mostly now, with all the setting up and yourself?
Myself, really, right? Because Mrs. Mariani has enough on her plate, so she has been a tremendous help. But I often add a courtesy to her because she's trying to help everyone in the building that I find myself coordinating that, which sometimes works, but sometimes doesn't, which isn't fair to the staff, so.
Next up, consent agenda.
We haven't done vote on it.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Beth. Be it resolved, Board of Education Garrison Union Free School District hereby approves the creation of the part-time position of Principal Office Assistant School. This is a 12-month position, 17.5 hours per week. Why do we have that little parenthetical school there?
Because that's the civil service
Ah, I
title.
see. School. Okay, great. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Nays? Abstentions? Okay, let it be recorded. Guys have it. Item 7, consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through J.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Is there any questions about the consent agenda or pieces on it? Let us, we can remark, obviously, Laura has remarked already on Matthew Evans's resignation that we were accepting within this consent agenda. The appointment of do I have to read that, by the way? Do I have to read the appointment of the part-time office assistant? Should that be?
You don't have to read that.
Okay, great. Then I won't.
You can refer to it.
I
Any?
have one question.
Yep.
Who will Julie Green be mentoring? We have a student.
Oh, yeah.
Megan O'Brien.
Oh, thank you.
English is a new language teacher.
Awesome.
I just want to publicly acknowledge on item I, the acceptance of donations for the music department. They actually come from a community resident named Kyle Good, who some of you know. Just a terrific former colleague of mine. I've known her for many, many years. And these musical items belong to her son, Dave Harrington, who's one of the world's great jazz guitarists. So the kids at our school are going to have the benefit of using Dave Harrington's
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Great.
musical.
Can I,
But we should really just be grateful to Kyle for contributing.
Terrific. Any other questions about what is Jeff Fairbanks doing?
He is supporting Paul Connors, our new music teacher, in teaching students trombone and French horn.
Ah, right, okay. This is the horn player. Got it.
He comes out of the Beacon Music Factory.
Ah,
Beacon.
that's, okay, great. I've spaced that. Thank you so much. Okay. I need a motion to approve. Did I get that? Seconded, got it. Okay, all in favor of accepting the consent agenda items B through J, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions, and the ayes have it. Number 8, discussion item. We have some a brief discussion items committee updates. Any committee updates? Facilities committee just met. Matt, you want to download us on everything we just learned? Or do you would like to defer to somebody? How about Laura, do you want to? Jill? Anyone want?
Well, we could do it together.
Yeah.
Okay, what happened in facilities?
We spoke with Tetra Tech, our architect,
Great.
and
We're still building something?
We are.
Nice.
and
Okay.
we talked about the timeline of our design schedule, 3-phase design schedule, and what we need to do immediately. And what we need to do immediately is get people who have knowledge of what they want to do with the playground to talk with the architecture firm about what should be done
Wow.
By the end of the month.
by the end of the month.
They don't need a specific plan, but they need general guidance because the next steps are sort of hinge on
Oh, because they have to survey.
whether they need to survey
They have
and
to survey
whether
the
they
land.
need to grade things.
All right, so
Well, let's tell you a little bit more.
Yeah.
So they need to know what we want to do as a district, because it could include getting a survey of our property lines. But if we're just going to use the funds to buy more equipment, they wouldn't need to do a survey.
If they're looking to level the ground, would they need a survey? Because that's something that had come up in some of the initial
Yes.
playground discussions.
They need a survey first because they need to know exactly how far they can grade to before they go on to the neighbor's property.
I mean, I would, from the from the previous playground discussions when GSEP was looking at putting in the, Laura jump in here with me if you remember this, but I think we talked about how possibly leveling that field at some point, taking out some of that old equipment, maybe putting in other stuff and making more space back there for things like soccer and team sports.
Creating a more level field
So that had been part of the conversation
to lose that downhill
2 years
advantage.
ago.
That's what they want to know now by December.
Okay.
What they want.
And then also working with user groups. So the core design team would be principal, superintendent, building, ground, business officials. And then we would bring in people for specific areas of the plan. So if there's the art room and small group instruction rooms, it would be Coulter would be part of that conversation. We would be part of that conversation. And somebody suggested another person on staff who may help with designing that space. And then another group would be, here's the core team with the security system or technology. So of course Nancy Romano would be part of that conversation, and who else in the community or staff would be part of that conversation. And those meetings would happen in one day. It would be half hour, 20 minutes each user group to generate ideas for the design. And that should happen sooner than later as well.
Can we, this is just off the cuff, can the facilities committee through, Laura and with board approval, I guess, create a kind of focus group just to answer that question? And maybe invite some people that have been in the community that are involved with construction.
For what?
For talking, and use of the playground?
I think you're meeting on Tuesday, right, to start talking about.
We're going to start,
expanding on
because it
committees.
really was suggested by Tetra Tech is to have the core team to kind of direct this work.
So they said board members should not be on these, that these committees should be people who are in the building on a day-to-day basis to talk about what they need. For example, in the classroom committee, art committee.
Sure. I'm thinking of just the field.
So the field one, I think, is actually one of those committees. It's just of the committees, it's the one they prioritize. The other ones, they have a little bit more time to play with, but the playground committee, they do want to form like.
Is their timeline feasible?
I think so,
Can
because the
you
decision
get
they
them the
need this
information they
month
need?
is not a specific, they don't need like a specific, they just need like a general answer
Direction,
about
right?
which direction the school wants to go. Do they want a new field or not, basically. They don't actually need like the specifics. They just need to make very sort of wide lens decisions.
I have a question. Can they speak to yet how much the survey and leveling would cost, and if it fits within the budget? So the equipment can be incredibly expensive, especially when you add in excavation, mulching, all of that.
So the survey would be between $5,000 and $10,000. We didn't talk about the leveling cost. 'Cause
The grading.
So it might be,
we know.
They were very budget conscious.
okay, it might just be a
They said that
discussion.
they budgeted for the different options as part of the initial plan. They just need to know how much. I mean, they were very conscious of budget.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what do we need to do immediately?
We're going to work on the playground piece
I think the
first, and
playground
then
committee needs
the
to be
other
formed.
users,
Right.
the user groups.
Okay.
And we're going to meet, leadership's going to meet next Tuesday.
All right, I'm just a little unclear, and this might be my confusion. Do you need input from specific groups in order to be able to communicate what you need, or to communicate to Tetra Tech effectively? And who are those people that you need?
Yes, so that's on Tuesday, so what they termed as a design team, which would basically be our core administrative team, so myself, Laura, Mike, and Sue. So we have our weekly leadership meeting. He said it's best to start by defining those user groups.
Okay.
And those user groups would be comprised of, depending on whichever subgroup or whichever project.
Okay, I got it.
Yes.
All right.
So they're going to form the playground committee basically at that Tuesday meeting.
All right, terrific.
And then that committee will then, I think, make the recommendation to the architecture firm about what they want.
My apologies for being so dense.
No,
No,
but I
a lot of
think
moving parts.
and they want us to sort of agree, I think, on the proposals. For the next meeting.
You're in it, man.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
One more important piece for
Sure.
everybody in the community to know. Tetra Tech urged us to stay within the scope of the plan and not change the scope of the plan, because if we change it, it's going to get more expensive. So we need to do what we said we were going to do and not all of a sudden say, oh, we want, you know, I don't know, a tower or something. So anyway, Garrett spoke about how in the 3 stages of design, we'll have an estimator look and see if we're still meeting the budget scope, which is very important, because if we're exceeding it, we have to back up.
All right, so,
They also had recommendations for when it does come time to take bids, how to go about doing it to get the list.
okay, good. All right. And this would be a good time to solicit, I suppose, anyone in the community that might be helpful in it. Is that possible? Within the facilities, I think we can, right? Or,
Is that what?
I'm thinking architects, you know, construction people that might be good contributors in this conversation.
Facilities committee.
Yeah.
I did extend invitations to
So-
sources.
Okay, great. All right, any other committee? Planning committee, do we have anything to say now?
We didn't meet, that's the
Okay.
last meeting, so.
All right. We have, do we know our next meeting time? That's
I think it's
posted.
next week.
Yeah, it's posted, I think, right? All right. Anybody, any other committees? Policy?
Policy committee moved our meeting to next week. We haven't met since.
Oh, no, we met last Monday.
Oh my goodness, you're right, that was
So, and then today's meeting is rescheduled for next week.
rescheduled.
So,
We finished up section 3000, which is the community communications section. And we are now moving on to 4000. We'd hope to do 4000 in October as well. But fell a little bit behind, just getting through some of the nitty gritty of the language. But we're moving along with our overall.
picking up speed.
Okay, so there's a manual, policy manual. It goes from 0 to what?
It's this. So we did we're in section 3000, right? We just did community relations and we're moving on to administration. It's going to get increasingly time consuming as we move into personnel, students, and instruction. But it's really interesting. We've been working a lot, I mean, Lauren's speakers too, we've been working with the council, the lawyers are involved in all of it. We've been looking at every little word. It's really fun stuff. Oh, and we did.
You got her saying that the policy manual is really interesting. Just want to make sure that's on the record.
One of the problems is every time they update this, we have to update that.
Supposedly.
This is 37th edition of the school law book, okay?
There are lots of
Little light reading.
a lot of interesting things. in
Right,
it.
this is New York. This isn't even the feds, right? Feds have to comply, New York has to comply with feds, and we have to comply with New York. So a lot of the policies that you read about, you know, in community newspapers or whatever, are really embracing, responding to law mandate.
And also part of the work, what we've is pulling out procedure out of policy, because there is another manual, it's called the administrative manual, and that's what we use to implement or follow what we need to do. So keeping this more of an specific but overview, and then the steps towards that, whatever we're, whether it's a visitor or a volunteer in the building to,
Right.
Yeah, we've been able to cut a lot of policies that apparently we didn't need, which is excellent because
Some things are procedural,
Yes.
which might be, and things that govern procedures of administration or the administrative manual. Staff have an employee manual, or right?
and then also the code of conduct.
And then the code of conduct, which, you know, handles a number of things.
and this there are some that are required. So we're making sure we've got those and that they actually follow the current law.
Okay. Audit, no. Finance, no. Planning, policy, facilities, and that's it for the board. The status of, that's it for board committees. Status of building committees is what you expressed.
But we did have an environmental education conversation. I don't know if you want to speak to that or speak to that.
So as Laura mentioned, we had an environmental education conversation yesterday where we had extended it basically to our community members, but also to members of the committee. So you went through a little bit of the explanation of the district priorities, and then this evolving shift that we're in the process of figuring out with the study teams. So we felt it was important that we have a conversation about things such as the Youth Climate Summit, which a date has been set, I want to say Friday, May 15th. I'm hoping that's correct. We did also have discussion of there's plans, thanks to Crystal Ford, that she's looking into speaking with the town of Phillipstown and coordinating basically a parade for Earth Day, since it will be the 50th, which would be after school on Wednesday the 22nd. So that is something, again, we had a conversation of how we can help facilitate that process and see if others may be interested, among some other good conversations as well too. So
April 22nd.
yes, sorry, what?
It's Wednesday, April 22nd.
Yes.
Just in case people are looking at their calendars.
And
Oh,
another
right.
piece of that was the importance of having our study teams of educators road mapping what we have currently that is environmental curriculum. So before adding or generating more and more ideas, let's see what we have now, and then see how we can add, complement, expand.
Right.
There's so many things that are happening now.
Much paperwork has been created over environmental education.
To that point, how are you asking or surveying the teachers to let you know what they do in the dress, or is this more something that you can just look at curriculum and I pull it out?
That's the study team's work.
The study team, once that's formed,
Yeah,
will
their
start to
work.
reach out and identify what they're currently doing, and they then will other things maybe be brought in.
Yeah. Sort of get a handle of what we're doing already. Right now, we all know we're doing it, that it's been embedded in the curriculum. We don't have that roadmap of how it's cohesive and scaffolded across grades. Are there gaps or things that we didn't know that were happening in classrooms? Because there are some things that just happen in the classroom that weren't part of a plan, and it's a teaching moment. So making sure that we grab all of those, the small and large pieces.
Okay. Any other questions? We go with committees? Okay, let us move on to action. We have a action item, correct? Just one here. Terrific. I need a motion to adopt the standard workday reporting resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District hereby establishes the following standard work days for these titles and will report the officials to the New York State and local retirement system based on the record of activities. Title number 1, tax collector. Susan Hutter is the name that's assigned to it. The standard workday is 7.5 hours, and the current term end dates are 7/1/19 to 6/30/20. This is and record of activities result days 2.0 per month. All right. Is that how that
Beth
reads?
loves to speak about this.
It's something we have to do every year. It's so that these individuals receive the proper service credit in their retirement system for the work that they do under these titles. And it's
Right.
a complicated process of coming up with these hours. It's not a lot of hours, but very important work.
Okay, so and this is in the title of claims. I have this dropped off here.
Claims auditor.
Thank you, claims auditor Melissa.
Harris.
Thank you. 7/1/19 to 6/30/20 at 1.07. So what we're doing here is basically saying these folks have this title. Because they have this title, we're committed to a portion of their contribution toward their retirement, right? Based upon their labor.
Yes,
Thank you.
based upon the work they do.
Yeah, it's proportional. A lot of the individuals in this building hold several titles because we don't have separate people to do these different things, okay? So there's a certain obligation and right within that. Okay, next up is public comment. We have to vote on that, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. Public comment. At this moment, people are welcome to come and speak. Please know that we don't talk usually about personnel issues and individually, and that we speak with a respectful manner. There's usually a 3-minute time limit, and that's about it. But you can step to the microphone and identify yourself. There's a long-winded policy that you can read online, but we have one that have to hold you to it. So just if you'd like to come and speak, feel free to, and just do it in a respectful manner. Yeah.
Hey everybody, John Mosick. I come here for 2 reasons tonight. First, as a Scoutmaster at Phillipstown Troop 437, I want to thank Garrison School Administration for really supporting the scouting program in this community. Alex and Laura, Mike Forty, GSEF for helping sponsor a lot of the projects that are happening in this community. It's been a pleasure seeing these scout projects go on, and all the Eagle Scouts and the various programs we're able to do in part because of all the support we're getting from the school district. So thank you all for that. And I also wanted to make a comment. I was initially intending on coming here separate from that, just to thank Laura for her service to the community. I was extremely surprised and disappointed that she was leaving, and I want to thank her for her time and service in the community. And I hope that we find someone that's as visible and hardworking in our community. So please do your best job to do that. But thank you, Laura. You've been a great asset to all the students that have gone through when we moved here 5 years ago. It was great to have someone with your energy and your passion for learning in the community, so thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Any other board member comment? Board member comment?
I mean, I'll say thanks to Laura too for serving. And what you just said, visible, and I will say that is something that's a good way to describe your presence in the building. Even opening doors in the morning, you know, for children. I mean, so you have been very visible and thank you.
Engaged, you know, hardworking. There's so many adjectives that I'll reserve for a letter of recommendation. But you know, there's a lot of effort, hard work, devotion demonstrated. So we're much appreciative. Okay, I think that's about it. Anybody else? Motion to adjourn to executive session?
So moved.
And second. Excellent. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Garrison Union Free School District adjourns to executive session to discuss matters leading to the employment of a particular individual. Thank you all for coming. And this session is over. And that's it. Gotcha. Under an hour.